Yeah, right. I was just thinking, I was
Hey, Yulia, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can we hear her okay?
Mhm.
That's fine.
Can play with it.
Awesome. All right, the time is 6:32 and I'm calling this meeting of the Twin Cities German Immersion School Board to order. Today is Leap Day, February 29th, 2024. And I'm excited to announce I have a new niece born this morning on Leap Day. Yay! Her name is Noor and she's adorable. All right, we'll start with our mission, vision, and values. The mission of the Twin Cities German Immersion School is the innovative education of the whole child through German immersion. Our vision is andere hören, andere sehen, vertolken, denken, and handeln. And our values are community, kindness, challenge and support, intercultural engagement, and curiosity. All right, Yulia, could we please do the roll call for the record?
Yes. Dr. Albers,
Here.
Dr. Alcatut,
Here.
Dr. Eberhardt,
Here.
Dr. Hartman,
Here.
Dr. Heit is not
Dr.
here.
Hyde is walking in the door. He's walking in the door right now.
Say here. Say here. Say here.
Say here.
He's here with treats.
Dr. Kuitzinger is not here. Dr. Kwan Dobbs also not here. Dr.
Not
Reich
here.
Here.
Dr. Smaka.
Here.
Dr. Tesfa Jesus is not here, and Dr. Yemaniap is also not here. And an ex-official member, Executive Director Cleansing.
Here.
Excellent, thank you. And welcome to Dean Noy and Principal Senteneg as well. Thanks for joining us tonight. Yes, we have 3 board members who are traveling and 1 who has something at her college, an event tonight, so. But we have a quorum.
Squeak by.
All right, I'll take a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Hartman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Smaka. Are there any edits to the meeting minutes from last month's meeting? All right, without objection, the minutes are approved. And I'll take a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Hartman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Albers. Any discussion on the meeting agenda for tonight? Without objection, the agenda is approved. Yulia, did anyone sign up for open forum public comment this evening?
No.
Okay. Anyone present like to address the board tonight? All right, thank you. Open forum is closed. And that brings us to our special recognition. And we have some guests present with us tonight. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to recognize TCJIS educators and staff who have met milestone anniversaries with the school. So 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. So celebrating 3 years, we have Esther Goodall. And let's see. So all of the board members are going to take turns reading just 2 of the comments that were captured by our community members, messages of congratulations. Director Albers, could you start? And then we go around this way.
Yeah. Can't. Logistics. Okay. The first comment for Esther is, we are so grateful to have you as a teacher. You have been amazing and Nora has learned so much. Wishing you continued success from Heidi. And the second comment says, thanks for being here at TCGIS, Esther. I'm always impressed and grateful for all you do and have done for our community these past 3 years, but also for the time you were our kindergarten teacher. Yours appreciatively, different Heidi.
Excellent, thank you. And next we recognize Jinhee Randall.
And the comments for Jinhee are, congratulations on 3 years at TCGIS. You are the heart of the lunchroom. Thanks for feeding our kids, Eula. And also, the second comment, always so cheerful and patient with the students. We appreciate your efforts to make such wonderful lunches, from Ren.
And next we recognize Paige Yursick.
I love that I got Paige since I've been working closely with her. The school is lucky to have you. Thank you for all you do. I know it exceeds what we see every day. Alles Gute from Margaret J. Paige, thank you for all of the work you do. There's so much you have brought to the table, and your passion for the students and school are seen, from Liz.
Awesome. And for those who don't know, Paige worked for Kinder Club for 2 years before becoming our communications guru here at TCGIS. Next, we recognize Christine Hafner.
Congratulations. Thank you for feeding our students and taking care of the lunchroom and putting up with the noise and energy, Monica. And second, congratulations and thank you for all that you do behind the scenes to help the school run smoothly and keep our children fed, the Jarvis family.
Excellent. And next we recognize Christina Waltz, who is here with us tonight. Thank you for joining us. We are lucky beneficiaries of your amazing organizational skills and your thoughtful ways of engaging and motivating kids in the library. I love connecting with you and so appreciate the warm welcome you give everyone in the library. Herzlichen Glückwunsch, Christina. Christina, thank you so much for being a steadfast part of our library. It's awesome to see everything you're doing to keep the program running and to help the whole school enjoy the books and the space. And congrats on 3 years, from Nicole. So Christina, please come up. We have an award for you. So here is your 3-year award. And we also have okay, the 3-year lanyards are coming, and we'll get this. Let's see. Yes. Go through those, see if it's in there.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you. Congratulations. All right. And next we recognize Jennifer Nylander.
Congratulations. Being in the lunchroom with all the energy and hungry kiddos is not easy. We really appreciate you, Monica. Congratulations and thank you for all that you do behind the scenes to help the school run smoothly and keep our children fed. Jarvis family.
Congratulations, Jennifer. And next we recognize Amy Peterschmidt. And I understand Katrin here is going to accept her award on her behalf. So thank you for coming. Did you find
I
it?
don't have that one. You want to give me the other stack over there?
Did you find it? The comments for Amy.
Yep, thanks for being a strong and positive force in the middle of the school. You're a joyful colleague to be around and still very down to earth. I'm very happy to have been serving alongside you for the past 3 years. Herzlichen Glückwunsch, Chris Tavish. Congratulations on your years of service. Best wishes for many more years. And thank you for teaching at TCGIS, Dana.
Congratulations. Next, we recognize Callie Orlova.
Congrats, Callie. You are so great with our students and such a reliable colleague. Thank you for all that you do, from Luke. And thanks for your patience and support in the classroom, on the playground, in the lunchroom, and everywhere in between. Your commitment helps all learners grow. From Angela Jansen.
And we recognize Leonie Manos.
Thank you for your service, Frau Manos. We are very happy to have you at TCGIS. Patrick really enjoyed his 2 years with you, and we're excited for Elise to get to spend this year and next year with you. She loves it. Elise and Patrick Jansen and family. Leonie, being your neighbor this year has been wonderful. You are so caring and compassionate, and your students are growing so much in your care. Thank you for being you. Liz.
And we recognize Valerie Gorlitz for 3 years.
Congratulations, Frau Gorlitz. You are a wonderful asset to the school. You do great work with Monet. From Ginger. Your hard work and dedication does not go unnoticed. You inspire those around you and are so warm and caring. We are lucky to have you in our children's lives. Thanks for all you do, Veronica.
And we recognize Emily Richardson.
Richard? I am so glad you are working at TCGIS. You share positive energy. Sorry, Richard was highlighting the words I was trying to read. That's what was going on there. I'm going to start over. I'm so glad you're working at TCGIS. You share positive energy and ask really good questions that provide the place for happy and good work to get accomplished. Thank you just for being you, Marin.
And Emily also creates the beautiful posters that are hung up in the atrium showing where our interns come from in Germany and other countries. So thank you for doing that, Emily. And we recognize our 5-year honorees now. So for 5 years, we have Liz Spafford. There are too many wonderful things to say. So knowledgeable, caring, and kind. So happy and proud to call you a colleague and cherish our time together in our team. From Stephanie Pesto. Liz, you are such a great kindergarten teacher. Those little guys love you. Thank you for all your hard work. Ginger. And next, for 5 years, we recognize Claudia Mueller.
Congrats, Frau Mueller. Liam has great memories of you as his classroom teacher, and we're happy to get to see you in middle school. So glad you're a part of the school, the Rezitar family. Thank you for imparting all of your wisdom with our students. From Cindy.
Now we recognize Nina Maslovsky.
Thank you for all your knowledge, discipline, and hard work. You provide our students with a firm foundation from which to go forward into the middle school. Emily Richardson. Thank you for creating a loving and supportive environment in which our children can grow. When I've had the opportunity to chaperone field trips, I've enjoyed seeing how connected you are to the kids. When I was a secret reader, I was very impressed by how you integrated social emotional learning into the discussion. We're lucky to have you. Sincerely, Cookie Anderson.
And another 5-year honoree, Marin Flavel.
Congratulations on 5 years. You put your stamp on everything you become involved in, and you truly have influenced the AssIST program since your arrival. Thank you for your caring attitude and endless energy, Roxanne. And congratulations, Marin. Thank you for all the care you take with students and for your smile and positive attitude, from Frau Hall.
And next we recognize Nicole Krashel, who is here with us tonight. So thank you for coming.
I'm lottery day of all days.
Just makes the day more exciting.
Can't leave it.
Here's your 5-year award. Congratulations. And here are the comments from the community. And he'll get you your 5-year lanyard.
It's like ready set spaghetti in here.
I can read Nicole's
I can-
comments. Wow.
Yeah.
While you untangle things.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm saying, yeah.
They're
This
like,
is kind of entertaining.
There it goes.
Let's see who does it
Thank
first.
you.
All right. 5 years, amazing. Thank you for all you do for TCGIS and keeping things running in the front office. You rock it, Lauren Blood. Oh, great infinite campus guru. Where would we be without you? Thanks for all your help and your amazing attention to detail. You're an asset to the school and a delightful colleague too, from Christine.
All right, our tenure awards go to Jesse Whitney.
Jesse, thanks for always working your magic on tech issues that probably shouldn't have been issues in the first place. We're lucky to have you as our tech specialist, from Zach. Jesse, you make it easier to do the work. I'm also thankful when I learn something new from you. Glad you are here, from Amy P.
And our final honoree for the evening is with us tonight. We have Eveline Stillwell. Nope, yours is the big one.
Oh,
Oh, that's pretty. Your tenure award.
wow. That's
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Comments?
Congrats, Frau Stillwell. Both Kellen and Liam have loved having you as their teacher. Thank you for all you do. We are so glad that you are a part of the school, the Retzler family. Evelyn, you are an amazing teacher. Thank you for all your hard work and countless hours of planning, grading, teaching, and communicating with families. I'm so very glad that both my boys have gotten to have you as a teacher and that I get to work with you, Ginger.
All right, let's have one big round of applause for all our honorees. And now we will go into recess for 20 minutes. And we have some treats over here for all of the people here to enjoy. So we'll be back in 20.
All right, let's try it. What do we see?
No, it's okay though, 'cause do you want me to?
Okay, we can see. Sweet. We
Are we good?
We're good. We're on you. The camera is back working.
All right. Awesome. All right, it is 7:13 and I'm calling this meeting back to order. Let's see. Next item on the agenda is our principal's report. So I will hand it over to you, Principal Zentenig. Would you like support from Yulia with the slides? Or are you sharing your screen?
I am not in the Zoom link. Should I be in the Zoom link?
Okay.
I can do
Julie?
it.
Thank you,
Perfect.
Julia. All right, this is the Leap Day Principals Report. Lots of classes were doing fun things with leaping and measuring and talking about why we have a Leap Day. Academic staffing updates. We have been in the process of getting ahead of next year and having some special education interviews. We had a couple people come from out of state, and so we're really excited to offer up some positions for next year. We could have taken more special ed teachers this year had we found them. And so this isn't to replace anybody. This is just to sort of, we've had a lot of evaluations in the last year or in last month in first grade. So we anticipate having a higher need. And so we're looking to getting ahead for that. We lost one EA to a move back to Germany and one to maternity leave, but we ended up offering TCJS contracts to Zen EAs, a contracting source that we sourced through, to Josh Groven and Noah Brentlinger, who helped staff the middle school dance last Friday. Thanks, Noah. Middle school drama is something that we are still working on. We've had some interviews, but no one is able to take the position on right now. And so stay tuned. We're gonna have to staff this probably creatively and internally. Thanks to Maren Flavel, who generously volunteered. She's been crafting with the students and working on some Shakespeare over the last couple of weeks just to provide some stability and a familiar face. We've got 7 new spring interns. We added an RBT, which is a behavioral trainer is the B and the T, but I can't remember the R right now. Someone who is professionally trained in behavior stuff. They're coming with our BCBA, Board Certified Behavioral Analyst, an extra day a week to provide support to our SPED team. And our second round of teacher evaluations is underway for our probationary staff. Happy to report that we are making progress with our mission and our mission-driven innovative education. Here's some academic programming updates. We finished our second read of screeners, K-8, and those data meetings happen. So we sit around and we talk about student data. We form those ATSIS cycles, and those will begin soon. The elementary school started their accelerated German groups. So we have some native speakers. We had some extra space in our staffing that we use for DAF, Deutsch as als Fremdsprache. And we formed some smaller groups so that native speakers can have some extra practice. There is some cursive writing happening in second grade. And if you turn to the next slide, you can see the cutest pictures. There they are with their happy, with their pens. Danke, Juliana Schulzenbach. At the middle school, the DSD-1 will be in 2 weeks for our 8th graders. 8th graders have completed 2 of 3 summer seminars in preparation for capstone. We're about 60 days out from that trip. Same second round of screeners. 6th through 8th grade is preparing now for regionals for History Day. We had approximately 50 students from our 6th through 8th grades qualify for regionals, which is next week. Sessions, social, emotional, sexual health sessions are coming in March for 5th through 8th graders. And then there is an extra math program for 6th graders every other week. We've got some push and support. Roxanne Cornell, one of our ESSIS providers, is working with Herring Collada to give our high-flying 6th graders a little extra challenge. Spring sports began. Numbers are increasing in participation. We've got 36 volleyball students. We had to add an extra team this year from 2 to 3. And we've got 65 track athletes. So that's a really high percentage of middle school kids for participating in a spring sport. Some curriculum updates. We met to continue the piloting program for the first grade Deutsch mit Ollie. Those teachers are going to continue on with it to second grade. We'll revert back to the program that was curriculum approved for the next coming first graders and start to evaluate which one we'd like to use. We have a plan to place rubrics in place in accordance with the READ Act requirements to test the effectiveness of that curriculum. Science is building their needs list to satisfy the next gen standards. And Dean Noy and I will continue to work on the literacy plan for the READ Act. The READ Act literacy plan template drops tomorrow. Yay. Whole child updates. This is a great picture here. This is Frau Goodell takes her first graders to the park for Forest School. And this picture, social worker Deanna Irwin met with them to do mindfulness in the park. We had a really great first grade meeting on Monday. Catherine and Andrew and I hosted about 38 first grade parents. We showed behavior data, academic data, talked about the progress and the list of interventions and army of support that we've thrown at first grade this year. And the good news is that behavior has taken a serious turn down from where it was in December, January, and February. And the academic data shows that their trajectory is great. They're on track to exceed the last 2 school years in their screener data. The Dean of Students is pushing, Catherine Radke is pushing in to do SEL in K2. She's talking body confidence with Ariana Grun in 5th grade. Power Up groups are continuing. Middle school is having a grief support group that is offered. Mindfulness that I just mentioned. And the whole child task force is working on the field trip special events inventory. Restorative practices, Catherine Radke went to a couple of MDE sponsored restorative practices workshops. And so we're bringing that in. Next year, we'll move to teachers who are wanting in on that, and then we'll move to a whole school model. There's a SEL fidelity check that we're doing as we're continuing to work on the SEL scope and sequence. Last but certainly not least, German immersion. We've completed one of our GI German immersion task forces, which was to have an immersion workshop in both elementary and middle school, thanks to Katrin Gilhoff, who was our workshop coordinator on that. Really great results for on our PD survey. Native speaker groups beginning in 2nd through 4th grade. That's the one I just mentioned before. 15 kids total with a focus on reading and writing. I heard from a parent or 2 today that are just really happy to see that in action. So again, thanks to Katrin Gilhoff. Recommitment to German immersion. We're just bringing that up weekly with collective understanding of how we do things around town, just for new people that have come in. Started with just video usage, just a really simple thing to set a standard around. If you're showing a video, it should be in German. The Lese Marathon has a German theme this year, Lese Abenteuer. Those bookmarks are coming out. We had a PLC book club group that read a book, sent some suggestions and things. So we're working with some teachers, some teacher leaders, and some PLC groups to add to our German immersion mission. Alles. Any questions?
Thank you. And just so the board's aware. Oh, that's okay. So the email we got from the book club is in the board packet. I added that later today, so it is on page 51 of the board packet. Yeah, so it was really great to see that we have teachers focusing on that in their QComp and book clubs, and great to see some ideas coming out of that. Just one non-academic idea that I wanted to share is I've just been envisioning like a transition zone, and it does, you know, Katrin did mention that in her email. I've been envisioning it like artistically, like things hanging from the ceiling or something, like as you walk under that, you know, that's when you know this is German zone. And we have some creative people, I'm sure, in the school that could help kind of flesh that out. But are there other ideas, you know, like in our strategic plan, we've talked about German immersion areas of our school, ideas on how to show on the walls that that's German is expected there, not.
Yeah, I guess my vision was sort of the opposite, that the entire school should be the German immersion area, and then there should be designation when you're walking into Emily Albers' room, for example.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, I was thinking like at the
Right.
front door,
mhm.
but we have a lot of front doors.
Me too. We do.
That could be kind of tricky, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I'll pick your brain later.
What kind of immersion education or expectations are set for new teachers that come to teach at TCGIS? Like, do we give them a guideline of, we expect 90% German or 100% German? Especially for the
Best practice
younger.
actual says 90-10, and we talk about the 90-10, but that's mostly for new teachers coming in. So that's something we just started 2 years ago. We do talk about immersion strategies. We talk about immersion as a concept. And then there are things that the German Immersion Task Force came up with 3 years ago that we have those. So like if you're posting something on the walls, it needs to be in German. If you need to have English, it needs to be smaller. There's 3 of those, and we talk about those. Katrin and I are doing a lot of work right now. We don't have an immersion concept at our school. We have a pedagogisches concept. We don't have an immersion concept. And so my work has been to define some things. We get confused, and I hear a lot of dual language used around our school because we have English. And the dual language model is actually entirely different than immersion. Dual language means you've got 50% German speakers, native speakers, 50% English speakers, and we're not that. We are truly an immersion school. It's not a percentage, it's a practice. And so I think there needs to be probably a little bit more education whole school. As far as the new teachers, yeah, they have an hour, but we throw so much stuff at them. Probably could be revisited. Amy Young at the U has been recommended. I reached out to some people at the U to see who would be able to help me with the immersion concept. And she's the person.
My outsider perspective too would just be that after a couple of years of being steeped in COVID and adapting to that, the 2022, 23 and 23, 24 years have been about teaching a lot of kids how to do school again. And it's been, immersion hasn't been like the number one task force on the docket. But this year was the year where we started saying it needs to be back. So just getting some of these structures back working again to start doing that definition and that training. Hopefully we can avoid pandemics into the future and really be implementing next year and having those task forces driving those initiatives through the summer so we can hit the ground running at the beginning of the school year. Katrin.
So when you look at the actual page and you Google the 90-10 model, so it says the use of the target language refers to all learners that say, read, hear, write, and view, production and reception of language on the part of learners, educators, and materials. Actual recommend that learning take place through the target language for 90% or more of classroom time, except in immersion program models where the target language is used exclusively. The target is to provide immersion in the target language unless there is a specific reason not to use the target language. So that is a quote from the actual page. I can send to you if you want to.
Thank you. I mentioned this resource too in the email back, but Juliana Schicker was also recommended to me actually as a resource. She is a German professor and a German native. She's in the Como area, I think.
And met with her in fall.
Yeah. How'd that go?
She wanted a job and we didn't have one. But when you mentioned her in this, I knew exactly who you meant. And so this could be.
Yeah,
what
I
she
understand
wanted.
she's on sabbatical right now. And so she did a immersion analysis for the Kinderstube preschool. And maybe that would have whatever she observed there, since we're a very similar model.
Yeah.
Maybe she could present to you guys what she learned.
Great. Yeah, immersion in Kinderstube and in Baltze is still different than teaching content, right? And so content, has to be comprehensible. Otherwise kids aren't getting it, so really nuanced.
I was helping my son with his German homework, which was really hard. But I was impressed as I was reading the paragraph. If there was a word that I wasn't familiar with, it was defined down below, but the definition was in German using different words. And I'm like, okay, now I understand. So that was cool. All right, any questions for Principal Centenig?
I wanted to ask about the power up groups. Is that does the whole middle school participate in those, or is it just the younger years? All
It is the
all the
whole
grades
middle
do?
school.
And is that it's during their advisory, like?
It's Thursdays on during advisories.
All right. What are the different groups? I'm familiar with like 2 of them for my kid, but.
Well, there's Dance. What is the Just Dance? There's a giant group that goes outside with Harry Eberhard. There's always some crafting ones, some crocheting and things like that. There's some gaming ones like Dungeons and Dragons or cards or things like that. And it's on a rotation every 6 weeks or so. They used some of the same ones this time.
Okay.
You want to come do one?
Going outside with Kevin.
Yeah.
Sounds
That one's a
fun. Is that what
popular
the
one.
it's called? The going outside with Kevin?
It's the going outside with
Outdoor games.
Lego. Lego.
Yeah, I didn't really know about those until my kid got into 5th grade this year, and that's a really cool idea.
We also work some of our SEL groups then into those too. So there's some like anti-stress and some other groups that are meeting with some more clear objectives than outdoor games. Also great SEL though.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Principal Centenig. Director Klinzing.
Great. Well, we're gonna start with an update on next year's school calendar by Dean.
Here I am. I don't know, Yulia, do you have the slides to bring up?
Yeah, 1 second.
And while we're getting the slides here, Dean Noy's gonna excuse herself right away because we got winner, chicken dinner. We won the site-based audit for compensatory revenue. And they will be coming on Tuesday to do an audit of our books for compensatory. MDE's coming on site. So she's busy preparing lots of documentation in the last 3 years. And has a lot of work ahead that we're gonna be working on all day tomorrow. So she'll be leaving us right after she presents.
All right.
I'd say congratulations.
Yeah.
I don't think she feels congratulations.
Not yet.
Okay, let us know.
It feels more like a burden, but yeah.
Oh, I'll take it. I mean, yeah, exactly. So you can see the calendar right here. It's pretty similar to last year's calendar. We got some survey feedback from parents and we took that, or from the community broadly, and we took that and integrated that into our choices for what we put together here. We still have a full week fall break. The feedback from our survey was that 56.5% were in favor of keeping that a full week. We have a similar length of school year, which reflects the 62.9% that were in favor of that. Relatively more full days off, fewer early release days. That's again, all of the parentheses are results from the survey. Conferences ahead of breaks. And the phrasing, this has worked well for our household, was how the survey phrased that question. So I wanted to make sure to reflect the accurate phrasing. We continue prioritizing the holidays outlined in policy 617 and having the day after Halloween off. Something that has changed is that we realigned our breaks with St. Paul Public Schools. This is outlined in our policy, but also it makes it a little bit easier for folks in the community to access alternative childcare if they need to on school-free days. So those links in the slides, those are the programs that we've kind of collected that we plan to communicate in the room brief about when we announce the calendar. We have been planning the last day of school as a full day of school. If we do have enough instructional minutes, I think it is a win-win to have it be a half day. It's just earmarking it is also not a bad idea, so no one feels surprised. We considered some other things within the group, within our calendar committee. We considered Veterans Day, but we felt that would be too many days in November off.
There was a reason for that.
There was a reason.
There were a
Staffing.
lot of staff gone on Veterans Day. It
Mhm.
required a ton of substitute teachers.
Mhm.
We almost didn't have enough.
On Veterans Day?
I think it's because so many other places take it off, like state agencies and other federal entities, post offices, things like that, that have that day off, that a lot of our staff's significant others or spouses might have had it off. That seemed to be the issue.
Do we have a procedure for approving days off? Like,
we do.
Do they have to request it and then get approval?
We do.
To try to
With a
avoid so
maximum
many?
of 3 teachers out on PTO on any given day.
It somehow, for some reason on that day, that process wasn't working. And we did get some late call-ins on that day because they didn't get the PTO day approved. It was a tough day, but we got through it. We're good. Now we're ready for next year.
I say we know what we need to do now.
But that's why you consider.
That's exactly,
The day
but that's
after the Super Bowl.
the day after the Super Bowl. Well, you can't have every day off. Come on, people. No, I'm kidding. Do you have any questions about what you see in this calendar?
I just have a comment, maybe two. January 20th says ML King Day.
Oh, well,
Might be a typo.
probably a typo.
And as far as the last day of school, totally understand what you're doing and why. I think it might be beneficial if somehow on the calendar we convey that to parents so they can kind of plan for it. Kind of like how we're, saving the time for teachers in case it's needed for easier planning for them. That might be advantageous to just like let parents know on the calendar that, hey, if there's not a bunch of snow this year, this is probably going to be a half day.
One of the factors into that, because we have had half days on that day in the past, but the Como Park that we usually have our picnic on is taken that day. And so we are gonna have to we get to use our school that day
For this year or next year?
for this year. And so some of the freedom that we had because we had that location, we will lose. So that was also taking that into consideration.
How do we get it for next year?
I don't know.
Is there
We
a
already
day that
lost
we have
the
to put it in?
Yeah, we did for this year, yeah.
Just got asked about it like yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We lost it in one day.
I don't think we ever had it.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know what their system is and how many days, how many years out you need to book it, but.
It's a great tradition. If it rains though, which it has before, all of the last minute pivoting is a challenge. So maybe this creates an opportunity for us to just rethink how we do it.
Thank you for your work as usual on the calendar. I know it's not the easiest thing to do.
Thank you.
I'm curious what your thoughts are on, now that we can do e-learning on snow days, do we need to build in 3 extra days? And if we don't need to build them in, could we end a week earlier?
Well, as long as we have enough instructional hours with those e-learning days. If we didn't take any snow days, if any day school was called, it was straight up e-learning and not, you know, first we exhaust a snow day and then there's e-learning. I mean, I'm just looking at the instructional hours. So if we wanted to go that route, we could, and we could try and end a few days earlier. That would be a possibility, but it would be a really tight schedule. So it'd be a lot of pressures to make the right call on those days.
What do we do right now? Or like, do we have one snow day, no instructional time built in? Like, so if we haven't had a snow day yet this year, but we get 6 inches of snow tonight, call off school tomorrow, is the e-learning or no?
No.
So we don't have in our policy whether, does it say 2 days or something? I was like thinking of.
Oh,
Some school just recently just changed that,
Okay.
but ours isn't like that.
I don't think that we defined one way or the other. I think we gave ourselves the flexibility strategically. And we have enough instructional hours where we would have enough to give a snow day before we did an e-learning day.
But we're
Just always
probably
like
going
to-
to do an e-learning day.
Yeah. It's,
Full disclosure, I'm in favor of snow day at least
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Like,
Schools are making some of those decisions now.
Right now, we have discretion to call it either way, depending. That's the way we've maintained it. I do think there's a request right now from the union to define that further, more like how Minneapolis has done it. So that we don't have that discretion anymore. We would have to call an e-learning day.
I know there's discretion for certain reasons. Remember the year that we, right after the holiday, there were 2 days, or right like during semester break, and there are inopportune times to do the lessons that we've had our teachers plan. So the flexibility seems ideal.
Any other questions on the calendar? All right, would someone like to make a motion to approve tonight?
I will. I'll make a motion to approve the 24-25 school calendar.
Thank you, Director Hyde. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Albers. Further discussion on the calendar? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving the proposed 24-25 school calendar, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right. Thank you for your work.
Good morning.
yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so we're gonna start to get ready for the next fiscal year's budget. And this year we're doing an internal budget priorities process that is taking into account all of the department's budgets down to the teacher level. So I'm going to take a few minutes just to outline for you what that process looks like. And our goal for doing this is to develop a comprehensive instructional and operational budget based on input from the people who actually use the budget. So our hope is that when teachers submit their purchase requests next year, we can tie it all back to the budgets they are requesting this year, so that as we spend next year, it's all based on things that even teachers had a chance to budget for this year. In the past, it's mostly just the budgeting process has been part of just taking last year's numbers and kind of shifting them over with some input from staff here and there. This is probably a little more comprehensive in terms of making sure we uniformly are asking everybody. So that timeline you see there for staff to put stuff into the budget means that they got their budget sheet templates on the 12th. On the 16th at PD Day, they had a chance to ask questions on how to fill it out. On the 27th, their sheets were due. Most of them have been turned in, with a couple that are still out there. They were given some time on the 16th to do a little bit of that budgeting. And then February 29th, today is part of the process of the budgeting, because of course, this is when we start to know if we're gonna have enough applications to have the same enrollment this year as next year, which will affect how much money is gonna be available for the budget. So I'll go a little bit over how many we had, but I think our enrollment for next year should be at least on par with our budgeted enrollment this year, if not better. And then in early March, the budget team, we have meetings set up next week, where we're gonna sit down, Isabel and Kim and I, and probably Elizabeth too, will be meeting to discuss the requested budgets from all departments and trying to coordinate that with the board's financial goals, and get that ready for the financial committee to review. We have new enrollees who won the lottery today, will be notified of their acceptance to TCGIS next Wednesday. The reason that matters is because until they send in their applications, we don't know if they're confirmed or not. And of course, confirmed numbers is what we need in order to know what our budget is. So April 1st is when those new student applications are due back to the school. And then by April, the school should be able to communicate to departments what their preliminarily approved budgets are for the next school year. So they should know what they can start to prepare to order for by May, because a lot of times the curriculum orders go out in May. We can't receive them till July 1st, so you can't be spending new money until after July 1st. But we do know that they get ordered because a lot of them are international materials. They get ordered usually by Yulia in May. So April 2nd is our preliminary date for having the finance committee approve those budgets. April 25th, the preliminary date for your approval at the board level, so that we can by May 1st then communicate those budgets out to departments and they can start placing orders, but not actually receiving them. Staff budget input template is what you see in green here. We tried to group them in ways that we do our object codes. So they tie right back to the object codes in the budgets, the macro budget. Isabel has become well-versed in the object codes. She's gets a master's degree, I think, for that this year, honorary. Our comprehensive budget timeline is being tracked on an Excel spreadsheet that didn't fit well on the slide, but you can see it there in blue. So if you want a copy of it, we can send you the Excel spreadsheet link. And some of the key dates are on the next slide. I kind of went through some of those already. Some of the things to just keep in mind as we're budgeting is that our current ADM budget's at around 585. Our 2% increase from the state's going to amount to about $51,000 this year because our enrollment went down. Potential resources that could be coming our way would be if we get 55 more students, that's approximately $550,000 more dollars in our budget. So it's just something to keep in mind that 55,000 or 55 students on top of 585 would give us about 10,000 per student. And we are probably dealing with 2% minimum inflationary costs to our budget. There are other areas that are more than that. So just some things to keep in mind as we're budgeting this year. Our financial indicators as of January 31st, you saw in the financials, which I believe were in this board packet. Our days cash on hand right now is 103. Expected by the end of the year is still 83. Our goal is always 60 or more. I was in a meeting yesterday, another board, they're at 30. So we look pretty good compared to that. Enrolled ADM, 572 at the moment. We're budgeted at 583. We are working on a working budget at the moment, which will ensure that our working budget is adjusted so that our DSCR is going to remain at 1.0. So we're in the process of adjusting that working budget for the finance committee to review and approve next week. Fund balance is a percentage of expenditures approved budget was 31.8% in June. It's at 30% right now with the decrease in enrollment, which is not too big of a swing. We're still doing we're still healthy there. Our enrollment right now, it's at 572. You can see where the different grades are at. Kindergarten stayed relatively stable. Most of the exits have been in first, second grade, a couple in fourth grade. Our 24-25 admissions, we've had 56 people apply for general admission, 38 were household or staff preference. We've had 2 early admission applications for the lottery. We are looking at, right now, we're planning on offering acceptances to 94 of those 96 kindergartners and running 4 sections of kindergarten. We'll decide whether it'll be for after we get all the applications. If we get 77% acceptance like we did last year, then that'll reduce to 3 sections of kindergarten. But if we get all of them accepting, then we will be able to run 4 sections. And our bubble class will be there. And we have all of these folks right now. I think most of these students, with the exception of a couple, won the lottery today and will be receiving a letter on the 6th. A couple of them are still on the wait list, but in a couple of different grades, but almost all of them, there was room, but not a lot. It did fill up a couple grades. You can see that on the next page. What the enrollment would be if everyone accepts by April 1st, we'll be at 647 students. But then I put a little retention rate chart there for you to show you that if we get 97% acceptance, it'll be at 628, 95%, 615, and 92.5%, 598 students. One thing that I'll share, I think that if we have the exact same retention rates as last year, that was 77% of our applicants, our new enrollees, but we lost about 4.5% of our existing enrollees last year. That, I did the numbers, and that equates to around 92.5%. So if we have the exact same attrition rates as last year, we'll be at 598. If we have better attrition rates, which I expect we will, because we have a very, very robust campaign in place to have all of the new enrollees become part of our community starting March 6th. Paige has already put together a number of events and outreach activities for them so that they are part of who we are this year and we're not going to wait until August. So, and we're not doing just one thing, we're going to do lots of things to engage them. So hopefully we'll be somewhere at, my point is, we hope to be higher than 598 because we should be able to beat last year's attrition rate by at least a couple percentage points, if not more. We are going to do it with a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
We have a campus planning committee that's looking at eco-friendly options for updated HVAC, windows in the older building, insulation in the older building, roof, older building in the older building. We have a playground task force already reviewing catalogs and reaching out to vendors and putting together RFP language. Some of the available resources we'll be looking at is a reserved capital fund that was done for fundraising, a reserve fund that was set up just for this purpose, escrow funds that are specifically for capital improvements, And the possible ERC payment, which will come in one time, hopefully sometime before the end of the year or next year, if the IRS decides to send it out. If it does, it's about $500,000. Playground task force gets to look at Fund 4, which is community education funding, and some other specific fundraising that was specifically set aside for the playground. Our campus planning timeline estimates are to identify the building priorities. We pretty much have done that. We're drafting deliverables starting in March. We're getting a little presentation next month on how we want to put those together for those big fun projects. They're not always the most, playground's way more fun. So if you want to have some fun, join that task force. Our task force is all the stuff everybody wants to have, but doesn't want to talk about. Windows, insulation, and HVAC. So we hope to post the RFP this summer, consider some proposals in the fall, and contract with a provider by winter so we can get our construction going by summer. And some of our available funds are as identified here. And I went through some of those. It may not be enough, but we have some other financing options we may be able to look at for HVAC, or we can stage it. And then the playground is looking at 137,000 at the moment, but also looking at some grants, I think, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Questions about budgets and campus planning and
I have a question on if we do spend the money down from the Fund 4, will that impact our DSCR, which is right on the edge right now at 1.0?
Not as long as we can capitalize whatever we're spending it on. So I don't know what the
That's a
rules on
decrease.
playgrounds are.
That's a decrease in just cash on hand. Or does that not count towards cash on hand right now?
It will count for cash on hand, but cash on hand is never a problem. It's the DSCR, which is the income versus debt service. So basically, if we can capitalize something as an asset, even though we're spending the money, our fund, or not the cash funds, but what we have will go up. So it won't affect
Our assets go
DSCR.
up. Okay.
Yeah. It will affect cash on hand.
Okay.
So we do have to watch it to stay, I don't know if it's in our policy, but, we've always been 100 days when we need to be at 60.
I can do a run with Kelly to see, closer to when you think you're gonna do it, because maybe by then enrollment will be so good that it won't be an issue. Get some, real eager folks, so.
Just another question about Fund 4. Is it the case that we need to match some of the funds that we spend out of Fund 4? We don't have to?
I checked again with her and a couple
We don't.
times. She said due to the fact that the playground is so, used so much by Fund 4, it's not
Okay.
something that we would have to do that with. And we charge the program 15 or 20% for their use of our building. So it's kind of covered in that chargeback.
Sorry, dumb question. What is Fund 4?
Community Education Fund. It's what the Kinder Club fund revenues. It has to go back, anything they raise or anything they charge families for has to stay in their community education fund, because we can't mix and mingle it with the general fund for education. With the exception of, because they use our facilities, we can charge them for use of the facilities, which we charge them. We charge Fund 4 for their use of the facilities up to 20%. But there's restricted uses on what we can spend the money on in Fund 4. Good question, but
thanks.
And then one last question, and you don't need to answer now, but we'll need to know what % of Fund 4 we can spend, because you know, we don't want to spend the whole thing.
Was the director helpful with that?
She doesn't want to spend the whole thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of let the director set that budget based
Okay.
on, because she's the most knowledgeable about what she needs to pay staff. And my understanding is the number I gave you should not have taken the whole fund,
Okay.
but maybe it did. But also
No, I think you're right, because
I
the
think that's
balance
the
is-
surplus.
the balance is higher now.
I think that's the surplus that
Okay.
I gave you,
Okay.
not the
It's a
not her
surplus.
operational budget.
It's a surplus from last year, like
Yeah.
beginning of this year, what it was after last year.
Yeah.
And we can always adjust the percentage of what
Mm-hmm.
the general fund charges the fund for next year, if
If it's too
there
much.
was an issue or something.
Yeah.
So there is some flexibility there.
All right.
We could decrease it,
Yeah, like if
although we may not. Yeah. Under certain
Yes.
conditions, we can decrease it. Yep, we do have flexibility to do that.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Can I ask one other question?
Yeah.
Is the playground part of the campus planning timeline? Or is it?
No, we
being
kind of
considered a
separated them
separate thing?
because they're using different funds
Yeah.
and they have slightly different goals.
Right.
The only time we may want to coordinate it is if, you know, there's roof materials coming off of the roof for the building. We might have to coordinate some work times, because we don't want to ruin the new playground. But I also didn't want the playground to not get done because we're waiting on another project, which the two are not completely related.
Mhm.
And they have slightly different goals. And really slightly different interested parties. Some people want to talk about swing sets more than they want to talk about roofs and HVAC.
Understand.
I don't get some people.
Luckily, I want to talk
Me
about both. Yeah, so far we've met with one contractor. It was just today, and I did make him aware of the future plans to within a year do the windows, and so we talked about making sure we don't put something down that will get ruined by the big machinery that they would
Right.
have to bring in. So, and he has a workaround for that, so that was great.
Yeah, so either we, you know, as soon as we get closer on the non-playground aspect of campus planning, we might want to coordinate with the task force, but they've got a lot of work to do before we're coordinating those things. But
Yes,
we're
but
in
I,
constant conversation.
and I have 15 people on the task force, so we're cranking through it.
Very good. A lot easier to get people to look at swing sets.
Yeah, there's not 15 people in the roof task force.
So anyone who wants to join the HVAC and Windows task force,
Yeah.
I'm taking numbers.
You got to put a call in the room
I will.
brief.
We'll do it.
Although I
doing
did
it.
that with the advocacy and I got 0 people, so.
Everybody likes to talk
If
playground.
anyone wants to do charter school advocacy and help us increase our funding at the legislature level, then
Okay.
we have that task force too.
I'm sure a lot of people.
Lots of opportunities going on.
Sounds like there's a bill. I don't know if it has legs.
You got it?
That latest max thing, there was another increase for. I have a
Alright,
question
is
on the
that-
lottery.
Mhm.
So did I understand you said there were 98 applications for kindergarten?
96, and there's 2 early
And 2
admission.
earlies. So the 96 went out as offers.
94 will go out as offers because the 2 early admissions have to be evaluated according to our process. And after the lottery, we actually after we closed the application process, we had 3 after the application for the lottery date passed, we had 3 more applications.
Okay.
And so we have to consider those applications before we can go give offers to the 2 early admission. So
Yes, I-
technically, we have more than 96 students who've applied for kindergarten.
Okay. I
We
guess I
have,
haven't thought through how the earlies work when they're in the application pool, because they clearly fall to the bottom when there's a wait list, but anyway.
Well, and they actually,
You have to read the
by
policy.
state law, we have to give our openings to non-early admissions first.
Yeah, and I don't think it contemplates that sort of collision of the lottery and then the after the lottery applications, but I'm sure you figured it out, right?
Our approach is going to be to offer to the 94 who were on time and won the lottery. Then she'll also offer to the 3 who, or 2 of the 3 who were late application. And then as we're gonna get the early admission process, we're gonna allow them to continue getting evaluated. One of the late admits is going to be, or late applications is going to be on the wait list. On April 1st, we'll know if that third or that one waitlisted person can now be included in the acceptances. Also at that April 1st date, we'll know if we have space for the 2 early admissions.
Okay, that was super helpful, and it wasn't my question, but I didn't know that was a question. That
Oh.
was interesting. So around April 1st, there will be 96 offers out there.
Mhm.
With the expectation of doing 4 kindergarten classes of 24. What kind of messaging is going out, and what are the parameters for what smaller classes would look like? At what point do we transition to 3 sections? Because if we don't drop all the way down to 72, but we don't have enough to really legitimately run 4 classes, you know, and we then end up saying, well, we got 28 kids in the class, right? So how are we messaging that to the families as they decide whether to accept?
Well, this year we ran 2.5
Yeah.
sections. And so we may end up running 3.5.
But by that, you mean you ran 3 sections of 18
Mhm.
or something? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so just, do you know yet, like, what you have in mind for how small would it go before
I
you
don't think
drop?
we'll be messaging to people that we're taking their spot away, is what I'm telling you. Once we decided to go with 4, we're going with 4. And if it drops to 3, it drops to 3.
So if we get to 72, then we go to 3.
That's right.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful.
It's a gamble
Mhm.
that I want to take.
Well, I think it's really smart to offer to all of them based on the 77% acceptance that we had last year.
Mhm.
Just tell them all yes.
I
See if
didn't want to
we-
lose the ones who were interested.
Exactly.
And
If they feel disappointed, they'll go to Plan B and then
Yeah.
they're gone.
that's kind of
Once you
where I
get
was
settled
at.
into the community.
We still ended up with a wait list.
And it looks like you can still apply late. How
Yes.
far long can you apply late?
Anybody can apply at this
Forever.
point forever, because we're always, like, there's always a wait list.
Mhm.
So until June, until the school year
Well,
ends,
until,
and then they go on the next year's.
Arguably, it's indefinite,
it's
isn't it?
indefinite. We still have wait lists in October and we're still calling people to come on.
No, right, not this June, so people
Oh,
can get
until June
in
30th
this
of the
school
next
year based on
Oh,
applications through
yes.
June of this year,
Yeah,
right?
true.
No one will for the
Yes.
last month of school, but,
Yes.
and then it resets in September, right? Or like right after the application process, we're starting to build the wait list for next school year, and people can join anytime, and they just go on the end of the list.
We always have 2 wait lists going. Yeah,
Um,
good questions. Any more?
So I just did the math, and that's 18 and a quarter kids per class if we end up at 73. So,
Which is not
Which
too
is-
far off from what we ended up
Right.
with this year.
and which parents will love.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and realistically, we've run class of 25 before.
And we're running them they're going into a first grade of 3 teachers. So, you know, if we end up with attrition down to 3 sections, they're feeding into a whole organization set up for that anyway.
But do you have a plan to bring the bubble class through all the grades?
Always.
If
We've
that
got-
happens?
We've got
Committed to bubble.
1.2 FTEs of elementary school students or elementary school teachers that we could use for the bubbles.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because
I've always
just to
thought-
make sure everyone understands, the following year, the plan would be just to go back to 3 sections of kindergarten. We're not trying to expand our entire school to 4 every
That is
grade because we don't have space for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably accurate. I mean, if it goes there are some schools that plan for 4 sections for K1, 2. And they expect the attrition to start happening at 3, 4, 5. And so that's when they start to winnow down. I don't know that we're going that direction, but this year the intention with the 4th kindergarten was to make up for the small kindergarten last year. We still may end up with 3 sections, but they'll be full.
Yes.
I've always thought that the looping would make it easier to do mobile classes because you're already bringing teachers. So if you had to add a teacher, you know, you're not hiring someone that could like follow them the whole way, but it's easier, you know, you get a first grade teacher, then you have that teacher for 2nd grade too.
We do have some flexibility with some of our full-time equivalencies at the elementary level right now, where they don't have classes at some of the time periods of the day. So we can redeploy them, which is why we can handle some internal coverage of teachers who are out.
All right, any other questions? Thank you for the director's report.
Oh, sorry, it was longer than 15 minutes.
No. I had a half hour on the agenda, so.
It was that. I told him 15. Just
All
sit in
right.
the back and plug in my computer.
Next on the agenda is our board liaison verbal reports. Director Smucka.
Yeah, we're still very comfortable this month, so.
Okay.
Very fun.
Are they, I understand they're meeting every other month now? Okay,
Mhm.
sounds good. Director Hyde, staff liaison.
There has not been a staff meeting since the last board meeting, so I have nothing to report.
Okay. It is on our to-do list to get a meeting set up with the staff council to go over the survey results.
Should we schedule it right now? Let's get
We have that council meeting next week, so I think then we will talk about it for sure.
Okay. Perfect. Administrative liaison, Karen and I continue our weekly chats, unless schedules get too busy or people get too sick.
I had pneumonia for 2 weeks. Sorry.
Oh,
Yes. So that
I
was
was still
really-
working, but just not as many hours.
And I can attest she was working, although I told her not to.
So did I.
Yeah, I was in a meeting and you're like, I told Karen not to work today, but she'll probably show up.
But lots of work going into the budgeting process and the union proposal, which is clearly tied with the budgeting process. So that's been good. All right. That brings us to the academic officer, Dr. Albers.
Yeah, we did have meetings throughout. There's a cadence now of 2 of them meeting on the same night, so that's exciting. For all involved. I'm trying to think back to it because the Special Education Advisory Committee and the Curriculum Advisory Committee met like the week after our January board meeting. And then I don't remember giving much of a report on it in February for some reason. So I'll kind of go over again just because there hasn't been much change in those, but there were a lot of updates at the SEAC, including staffing updates that Principal Zane Fennig talked about even tonight of EA changes. And the questions in there are really great. So if you're interested in that committee, it's a great one to be a part of. I've learned a lot as a general education teacher, but also as a board member in the curriculum advisory committee. The goals have been confirmed, just starting to firm things up, talking about different curricula, including the science standards. So that's great to hear. Both of those meet again on March 25th. And then the wellness committee met in February on the 13th, and we'll be meeting again in a few weeks to continue working on policy 533, which is the wellness policy, making draft changes, hopefully to send to governance for their April meeting. So, and then approved hopefully before June is gone. So, yeah.
How many parents are attending the SEAC meetings?
I'd say it's anywhere between 5 to like 7 parents that are showing up, almost exclusively online. So,
okay.
Some really good questions.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, board committee reports. Director Hyde.
The finance meeting, we covered the December and November and December numbers, which Karen already gave. It's getting harder to give financial report with Karen.
I can stop.
She goes over it all in the director's report.
Takes all your thunder.
Yeah, I don't know.
So sorry.
No, it definitely
You should do it.
Other things
I think we can give our volunteer treasurer a rest.
Other things we discussed at the meeting, admin again, did most of the work and brought the strategic milestones and their suggestions for the financial sustainability ones for 21 or 22, 23 and 23, 24, their statuses and if they should be moved to other years or not. Went over the enrollment, and then Kim gave a little presentation on the budgeting process that I think went over last meeting.
Yeah, she brought
Last
it
board meeting?
because we
Yeah.
hadn't started it yet. We had just planned it out. So
Yep.
she introduced it to the finance committee and then we
Yep.
implemented it that week.
So lots of good things happening. Just getting to be more and more on the admin side, which is definitely not a bad thing.
Mhm. All right, any questions for finance?
I still haven't found any good prospective board members with financial background. So if anybody knows anybody or if anybody's watching.
Did you get my email about the alumni parent? Did you get a name? Yeah, I sent it to you guys.
I mean, contact information, or should we follow up directly with Katerina? It just had the name, sorry.
Sorry. She probably has that contact information in the database. But I want to say she maybe has a financial background. I remembered.
Okay,
Even
our
someone with a
treasurer.
Business background. If they're not accounting or financial, just
Yeah.
business
Or math.
or math.
Can you
Algebra?
the principal?
I don't think they could be married to the principal.
Yeah, that would be.
No, they
a good
can't.
fit, though.
That would be a very good
Would be a
fit
really good
and
fit.
exciting. I would want to stay on the
Guy
finance
does
committee.
nothing, so let's get him doing something. Hope he's listening.
All right, our treasurer has just one more year on the board, so we are strategically trying to find a finance-minded person to run for the board this spring so that they can overlap for 1 year and then potentially become the new treasurer. All right, fundraising committee, Director Reich.
Yeah, we're still trending a little bit behind last year, so thinking of ways to make up that difference. Another thing that we were working on was coming up with some benchmarking criteria to think about other schools, because that is part of a strategic milestone that I know Karen and the team are working on. So drafted a few different questions that I think would be good for us to ask other schools, but working on fulfilling that strategic milestone. And then also talking about different ways to broaden our base of supporters. And one of the things that we're looking to do this spring is to host a coffee couch where we really make a concerted effort to invite grandparents and extended family to come be in the school with us, have some kind of performance from students. Just provide kind of a full-on TCJS experience that will engage them. We've also continued to try to outline different community fundraising opportunities that groups and the school can take part in. The latest being the Aki's bread delivery, where we're getting 10% of all orders. So, yay!
Thank you, Principal Santinig.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, and maybe with that example, we can get some other companies to join.
So can alumni families do the Aki's thing? And if so, when is the pickup and it's here at school?
Friday afternoon.
Okay.
Yes,
Does that go
you
out in
come
the
by.
alumni bulletin?
Oh,
Because isn't it only the school community that gets the run brief? And board members?
I mean, I would argue you're part of the community.
But I mean, it's a great point. Like, I
I'm
think it's
aware.
going to speaks to our need to develop a further alumni engagement strategy. This is like an easy way to do that.
Because I might definitely stop by. That-
I might also know some kids that live close by.
Oh, yes.
Pick it up. for you.
Sorry, hadn't even thought of that.
I mean, that might be a good way just to, so when the eighth graders done here, are their families taken off of the mailing list? For
There isn't a mailing list, as I understand.
No, for the room brief, like,
They don't get the room brief anymore, but last year we did have an alumni newsletter go out about 4 times over the course of the year. So we're looking to kind of reinstitute that. Sorry, Lindsay, I should stop
No,
talking.
fundraising.
I get
I'm
my committee roles.
is there a reason why they couldn't get it?
I don't think so.
Maybe that's a place to maybe start
Where they couldn't.
the alumni engagement.
Participate in the Aki's
Oh,
CSA. Is
Well, I
that-
think he was saying the
down.
run brief, but it seems like there's a lot of content in there that we wouldn't maybe necessarily want everybody knowing, and certainly they wouldn't
True.
need to know it. But some of the stuff in there would be completely appropriate to make sort of a routine alumni, maybe not every week, but once a month. Cull the stuff from there that's like the GAI classes and the after-school stuff, and, anything that might work for an alumni family, whether their kids are, younger or older or a mix, that. it's not
Maybe
a
create
terrible
a
idea.
condensed room brief.
Yeah, like monthly.
Specifically for
What does the room
alumni,
brief
yeah.
stand for? Or what does it mean?
Round letter.
It's not
Like
ultra
a
brief.
Round
letter
letter.
that also goes around.
Circular.
I thought it meant like comprehensive, like this covers everything. No?
I thought we-
Circular that you would get at the supermarket or something, that word is.
I thought we changed from Altern to Rund to incorporate more people in the community. Because Altern is parent.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
But-
we did it to be inclusive.
That's like
Mhm.
caregivers
Who's taking
and
care of
stuff.
kids, but
Right.
that too.
All right, that's a good segue to the Communication and Outreach Committee.
Sorry, Lindsay.
Okay.
Being a ticket vendor.
So we focused our initial discussion on who will lead the committee for next year, because like you said with finance, a lot of the communication is being done by school staff Paige. But we did find advantages for keeping it as a board-led committee. So we voted to keep it as a board-led committee, and myself will meet with Katarina and Paige in advance just to get the lay of the land of what's been happening. And then we talked about alumni, of how to engage alumni more. We talked a lot about the affinity logo and coming up with guidelines of if groups want to use the logo on t-shirts or whatever, what guidelines there'll be. So Paige is going to work on getting something written up for that. We talked about charter school advocacy task force, which is what Julie talked about earlier. And the day at the Capitol is March 13th. Do you know who's all going at this point?
Principal Senfenig, myself, and Kristen Wright, and Katerina Sheard said she's a maybe during that committee meeting, so I was going to touch base with her and see if she can make it. Mhm.
We also talked about advertising for a new community board member, and strategize about that. The post that just went out seeking a new board member. Talked a little bit about the lottery, the communication plan, and creating the little mailers that are going to go out to all of the families, I believe next week, to welcome them into the family. Talked a little bit about the Parent Ambassador Program, and then all of the successful events that have been happening for outreach.
Great, thank you. Governance and Leadership Development, Director Hartman.
Yes, we've been very busy. So we had not one, but 2 meetings since the last board meeting. We met on February 12th and then again on February 27th to try to push through some of the what has become a logjam of many policies, which you can see from the action items that we have teed up for approval tonight by the board, or at least consideration for approval by the board. Most of what we talked, so the minutes are in the board packet, but most of what we talked about was finalizing these various policies. We also did a first reading of policy 304, which is the executive director review policy. I had asked the board at the last committee, the whole meeting, that if you had time to review that and had any comments on it, to please pass those back. Julie did a really nice job making some edits to that. And so if you have any other comments, please provide those. We will hopefully look at those on the next governance committee meeting is going to be on March 6th, which is moved because of conflicts, or my conflict specifically. And then hopefully that 304 will go in front of the board at the March meeting. And then we've got a couple of additional policies that are coming up. We expect to do a first reading of the new gender inclusion policy at the March meeting. And then there will be some prioritizing, thinking about which policies are either most in need of updating because of legislative changes, or if admin has any specific policies that they feel should be on deck, please let me know. And keep marching through our annual and our cycle year 1 updates. So still have a lot of work, but tonight is very exciting because we're getting rid of a bunch of policies. I didn't just say getting rid of, did I? We are moving on to approve changes to a number of policies that we as a committee have been working on for quite a long time. Really want to thank Elizabeth and Karen for all of the help that they have provided and the work they've put into these. So hopefully you had a chance to kind of hop through these policies. I know that there are a lot of them, but you've also seen them a lot of times in their various iterations. None of them has changed super dramatically from last month. But I did change the format, and hopefully that worked for everybody, because I think it has been a perennial problem to try to figure out where the changes are and who can see what changes. And so I know Emily, when she was doing it, used to go through and like manually change the formatting to like highlight stuff and strike through stuff. And then if you're not smart like me, the first time I did it, I didn't save another copy, so then had to go back through and I had to undo all of that. Anyway, so in each of the policies now at the top, there is another linked document that goes to a red line. And that should be a comprehensive red line of all of the changes as compared to what is currently posted on the school's policy website. Yay. So if you have any questions or if they don't work for you, please let me know, because I think that this fixes some of the issues that we've had in the past. So I guess I will really quickly run through them at a very, very high level. And then if there's discussion, we can move on to that after my motion. So 503 is the attendance policy. This has been looked at, the folks in administration, Nicole Kroschel in particular looked at it. We have some updates that reflect the processes that we're actually using for attendance. None of those were legislatively driven changes. 506, which we've been, I think, working on for a good 6 months here, is the discipline and code of conduct policy. There are substantial changes in this one. As you can see from the red line, a lot of the updates are to incorporate changes that were necessitated by changes that the legislature made to the People Fair Dismissal Act and other related things. On that one, we've literally been working on that today. And so I have 2 little changes that I just added. I'll mention those when I make a motion. And then there's an accompanying form, 506 form. That is a brand new form that is required by one of the changes in the law, that we have a form for people who believe that the school has not followed the discipline policy and they can make a complaint. It is procedural in nature, saying kind of under what part of the law or what part of our policy we did not follow. So it's not about the nature of the discipline, it is about the process of the discipline. And the next policy is 413. This is a required policy. It's on harassment and violence. This is very specifically based on protected classifications, as outlined in the Minnesota Human Rights Act. And in federal law, the changes in this policy reflect updates from changes that were made in the law in 2023. The companion form 413 to that, I don't remember what we did to that one, how many changes we made, but 514 is our bullying prohibition policy. In this policy, there are some edits that were for clarification. The biggest change there is we revised the definition of bullying to track the statutory definition. And we've made some additional edits to expressly reference other conduct that is also prohibited under the law and under our policy, such as retaliation for reporting bullying or making a false report of bullying. The 514 form edits are to update it consistent with the changes we made to the policy and really kind of direct back to the policy instead of, we had a lot of substantive information in the form itself. And some of that just got pulled and references back to 514. 418 is our drug-free workplace policy. This was updated, as I mentioned at the last board meeting, to include references to medical cannabis and to other to cannabinoid products, and then related changes that are consistent with the changes in law around that. The form for 418 is also used for 419. It is an internal form that we have found is no longer being used by HR. There's a requirement that staff be provided with these 2 policies on an annual basis and that they acknowledge receipt, and we have to be able to show that. But HR now tracks that on a time and date stamped Google form, so we will be proposing tonight that we retire that form. And then the last one is 522, which is the student sex non-discrimination policy. This is required. Under Title IX, we did not make any changes to it, and we did not make changes to the reporting form for 522, except for some formatting. So I will make a motion to approve policy 503, 506, form 506, policy 413, policy, the form for 413, policy 514, the form for 514, sorry, I gotta go back, I messed that up. Policy 522 and form 522, but let me go back. Not approve form for 18, but retire for 18. And I'll go ahead and make my motion with also an amendment to, where did I write this down? In policy 506, which is the discipline and code of conduct policy, we just, in going through the last minute changes, needed to add or designee in 2 of the sections where it should say principal or the principal's designee, and that's in 10.3.4. And then the dean of students or the dean's designee has now been added. It's highlighted in the one that you can check out online now, and that's in 10.6.3. So
I would take.
that one
I
as
didn't
amended.
cut that one, and I would
No, you
take
added dean.
tonight.
Mhm.
I don't know that.
So I just added the designee. Do you want to change it to principal?
We
Yeah.
can discuss that in a second.
Let's discuss
pull it
that
up.
in a
Yep.
second.
I might
Okay.
amend that.
So there's my motion.
All right, thank you, Director Hartman. Is there a second?
Second.
You know,
Thank you, Director Albers. Question, you mentioned retiring Form 418, I think you said?
Yeah.
I don't see that on the agenda to reference. I see 413.
Oh, did I write down the wrong number?
Policy 418,
Maybe it's
and then
just missing.
it just says access current form here. It's not like.
Yeah, you're right. It's not in the.
You've got everything that you want for approval. You just have the removal one.
No, 418 is not on the list. 413, 514, 522. Oh, yeah, it's not on the agenda. 522. Can I make a motion to add it?
Mhm. I mean, it's in your motion already.
Yeah.
How would we access it easily?
Through the minutes. Go down to the minutes.
Okay. Oh, well then
It's
it's
on
in the
page
board packet.
45 of the board packet. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Is there any discussion about any of these policies?
So 10 point, Elizabeth, to your question, 10.6.3 is where that second one is.
Okay.
I think it was left in there, so.
So we're retiring policy 418 and 419 form?
Yes.
Okay, and this is retiring because HR has protocol to track this already electronically.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions or comments?
Did you figure out the one for 10.6.3? Are you comfortable with that saying dean, or should that say principal?
I think we
It needs
should
to
have
say
principal or principal's designee. It's probably just leftover language from.
Okay, and that's who will update the student's parents?
Yes.
Okay.
The principal's designee,
Didn't know if
principal
that
or
was a
principal's
handoff.
designee is probably gonna be a dean, but sometimes a dean might be named something else.
Okay.
You'll always have a principal dealing with the discipline because that's your licensure, but yeah.
All right.
But the dean you may or may not have, so. It's better
Okay.
to have the principal or principal's designee.
Got it. Sorry, I hadn't seen your note. Or your
I just did.
thing that came through.
It was an oversight on our part, but it was still there.
Okay.
All right, any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the policies as listed, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Yay. Thank you for all your hard work, Governance Committee. All right. And I know that diversity and belonging did not meet this month, but I would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge Director Aberhard's awesome work on the Festival of Cultures, which was amazing.
That was fantastic.
So thank you for all your hard work organizing that.
Thank you
And
to
it
you
was
too and everybody else who helped.
It was a great night.
Seems like it was a year ago.
It does, but it was only February 8th. All right.
February is the longest short month ever.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Is there any new business?
Oh, this isn't a business, but I just want to announce that the United States Department of State is pleased to honor Twin Cities German Immersion School for supporting the 2023 German-American Partnership Program and fostering international understanding through youth exchange programs. So we got a very nice certificate that's going to go on the wall. And their letter actually says at its core, diplomacy is about bringing people together, opening up dialogue, and encouraging empathy to make the world safer, more equitable, and more prosperous. And that the U.S. Department of State recognizes that diplomacy is not practiced simply by governments alone, and that citizens, be they educators, students, families, religious leaders, nonprofit leaders, or entrepreneurs, all play an invaluable role. So kind of cool that the U.S. Department of State is recognizing the school. So I'll send this around. Good job, everyone.
How did they? Like,
Yeah,
how did
I don't know how we got it. I think it's
The
because we,
German-American Partnership Program is the program that we use for capstones that's funded by both the German government and the American government. And we do receive some funds from them, and our program has to go through certain, a whole process where it has to certain balances. And so, yeah, you're one of them.
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
That's awesome. All right, let me back up to the consent agenda. We have a number of items that we can approve routinely. I would like to add the agenda for the board retreat to that list. The agenda is attached to this board packet now. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition of the board retreat agenda for March 2nd. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Director Hyde. Any discussion? All right, without objection, the consent agenda is approved. We are running right on time. It's 8:41. All right, pursuant to Minnesota statute 13D.3B, the governing body of a public employer may, by a majority vote in a public meeting, decide to hold a closed meeting to consider strategy for labor negotiations, including negotiation strategies or developments or discussion and review of labor negotiation proposals. I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session to discuss the TCGIS negotiation team's proposal to the teacher/EA union and gather board feedback before presenting to the union. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Hyde. Director Hartman. It's an H. Discussion.
Could we take 5 first?
Yes, we can take a 5-minute recess. All those in favor of moving to closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Thank you all for attending the public session of this meeting. We appreciate your engagement. Have a good evening. And we'll take a 5-minute recess.